are you to vote? And the 80% on both sides were really excited. So everybody was amped up. They just went back and asked that same question. And Democrats are the same. They're at 80 some percent. Republicans are down to 60.
Wow.
So it is more evidence that the Trump and the MAGA attacks on voting and democracy are actually having a dampening effect on excitement about the vote. Now, just because you're less excited to vote doesn't mean you're not going to vote. They're not the same thing. But again, you're looking at a place like Georgia, which is, by all indications, from a like a registered voter, it's a 50-50 state. It's a 50-50 state, right? Whoever wins as a state is the party that gets the least amount of drop off from the November election. That's just the bottom line. So all you need is 1% here, 1% there, Republicans to be turned off. You had that Lynn Miranda guy, the Trump, the Trumpy lawyer who's been filing all those ridiculous lawsuits. He's been telling people not to vote in Georgia. You only need that little bit of drop off. And I was when you started the show, I was looking at my phone and it felt really rude, but I just started looking at the Georgia turnout numbers.
Yeah,
and
now
they're only down. The vote by mail is only down 3% from November.
Yeah,
that's almost all Democratic vote. The first day of in-person voting, the lines were massive. People get excited. There shouldn't be any lines, of course, but that first day of early voting was bigger than the first day of early voting during the November regular election. So all of this really points to those are the core Democratic votes. It's the early vote, it's the vote by mail, because Republicans vote day of.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that we only have 3% drop off in the vote by mail, and that the in-person mail was actually bigger on day one, it was just we've only had it 2 days. So there's not a big sample size there. But on that first day, it was actually bigger than it was in the presidential election. That means that we are getting our vote out. Will they get their vote out? I guess that, we'll see. But if we get our vote out, it doesn't even matter what they do. There's more of us than there are of them. We saw that in November, only by 10,000 votes, but there are more of us. So if we can get that vote out, and when you talk about day of vote for the Republicans, you have Trump complaining about Dominion voting systems and it's all rigged and blah, 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 right? You have the MAGA, Lynn Miranda and the Kraken lady. They're all, don't even vote. If you go to Parler, that the new Twitter alternative for conservatives, if you go to Parler, Breitbart, you look at the comments, they're all screaming about today, this week was up Mitch McConnell recognizing that Biden is president-elect, right? That was the biggest sellout ever, and it shows that you can't trust Republicans. And Mark, I've made this point before, but the MAGA, the hidden Trump, the hidden deplorables, that Trump vote that only comes out for Donald Trump so far. Small sample size, but they've only come out for Trump so far. They're not conservative. They're not Republican. They don't care about those things. And they came out in Georgia for Donald Trump. Will they come out for Perdue and Loeffler? We can't assume that they won't, but there is a very strong possibility that they don't. So you have that dynamic at play. And so right now, I like where we stand. As long as we continue to get our vote out and make sure that everybody votes, it gives us an incredible, strong opportunity to win. And then you take that Fox News poll that says only, there's a 20-point drop amongst Republicans that are excited to vote in future elections. That is, if that holds, and if that becomes an actual thing, because everybody's too, they're too upset that Donald Trump lost the election, and so they're going to take their ball and go home, we'd be okay with that. And then that gives us a real chance in 2022 to get that functional Senate majority that can allow us to do things like statehood for DC and Puerto Rico and expand the Supreme Court. So that's the goal. And because if they continue to get that hidden Trump vote out, like it's going to be tough. It is going to be a slog because if you look at the 2022 Senate map, it's very winnable for us, but it's literally the 2020 battleground states. It's Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Did I say Georgia? Georgia, Florida. It's all the 2020 North Carolina. It's all the 2020 battleground states all over again. So it's going to be it's going to be a dogfight, and presidents in their first term historically lose seats. It is what happens. And the one, the one exception in recent history was 2000. It was 2002. It was George Bush's first midterm. It was after 9/11. So is the coronavirus pandemic and the vaccine rollout and getting the nation back to normal in this hyper-partisan environment, I mean, there is a real chance that we buck those historical trends and actually pick up seats and get that functional Senate majority. So that's what I'm excited about. I like the fact that in this Fox News poll, Democrats are not dropping off, because they did in 2009 after Obama got elected. They basically said, our job's done. We did what we needed to do. We're done. And Republicans swept in 2010.
Yeah. So just speaking of those numbers, folks, you can see georgiavotes.com, really nifty site. So far in the 2020 runoff election, 715,048 people have voted. At this point in the 2020 general, that number was 816,242. So, and I'm not sure what they mean by this point, because they're kind of different time frames. But, and then when you look on the ballot applications, the absentee ballot applications, those numbers are up. So this looks good, as a matter of fact. Biden was there this week. Roland Martin had texted me some of the, he got there early to cover it, and it texts me some of the photos of the area where they were holding the Biden rally for Warnock and Ossoff. And I'm telling you, it looked like Four Seasons landscaping. But you know what I didn't realize was that this was a drive-in rally. And that's why I looked that way. They picked kind of an open space with gravel. It looked like another industrial site is what I'm saying, but it was a space where many cars could come. I didn't account for the cars, so I'm like, oh my God, why are they doing Four Seasons landscaping? But he went down there and he rallied for Warnock and Ossoff. More and more is coming out every day about some of the financial swindling that Purdue and Loeffler have been involved in. So for a change, this is not characteristic of special elections. People are engaged, people are aware in Georgia. Everybody's talking about it all over the country. So this is a pretty big deal, and hopefully this can happen. And then we've got a Senate, and then maybe we can get things done. Still a little worried though, because Biden still wants to operate in the old school way. He hasn't been a senator for years, but I think there's something in him that still makes him think he can work with these guys, and like McConnell and the rest of them, Markos, and reach some type of bipartisanship. I don't know that that's ever coming back in this era, as if what Mitt Romney is saying is true, that Trump is still going to be hovering some type of way. I don't know how that happens.
There's not going to be broad-based bipartisanship. I mean, I think though that ship has sailed. I think what's possible is that you have a handful, the last few remaining Senate moderates playing nice. And by that, I'm talking about Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and funny enough, Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is a Senate moderate. But all three of them have indicated that they would vote unless somebody's way out of the mainstream, to vote for Joe Biden's cabinet secretaries. So you have the possibility, especially if it's even if it's a McConnell 52-48 Senate, there's a possibility that you get, 3 regular defections to at least allow government to function. And all 3 of them, Collins just survived. She's got 6 years, so she's not worried about Trump right now anymore. Murkowski, actually, not only did she not win as a Republican last time, she won as a write-in candidate against a Republican who beat her in the primary. And Alaska just shifted to a jungle primary. So everybody runs on the same ballot, regardless of party. And the top 4 advance to a runoff. And Murkowski is she can run as an independent. She's not gonna have any problem getting reelected. So she's not too worried right now about any Trumpy challenger. And Romney, Utah is probably, of all the Republican states, it's probably the least Trump-friendly Republican state. Mormons, by and large, they didn't vote for Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. But I don't think, none of them, there's no great love for Donald Trump. So it seems that Romney feels pretty safe. And even if he doesn't feel safe, he's maybe the one Republican in the Senate who doesn't care. Doesn't seem that, he's more concerned about, the functioning of a moral government than any other Republican in that chamber. So there may be a little bit of that. And I will say that he hasn't nominated any Republicans to the cabinet. Obama had a bunch of Republicans in the frickin' cabinet, right? Including James Comey, who ended up screwing us in the election. There was this notion that drove me crazy that you had to nominate Republicans for those national security positions. So FBI director and Secretary of Defense, like William Gates, the Secretary of Defense, and just reinforcing this idea that only Republicans could be strong in national security, right? It was a disaster for messaging purposes and practical terms. I don't think the Kissingers of the world really have nailed national security. Thank you very much. So he's got no Republicans. The people he's nominating to these cabinet positions are people that are, Jennifer Granholm to energy. She's a climate change warrior. So he hasn't, we can question his Secretary of Defense, right? We talked about that last week, having somebody who's a general who just left the Pentagon is probably the most questionable of his positions. But other than that, it's reliably progressive, not overly so. But again, he has at best a 50-50 Senate to deal with, and he still would have to get these people confirmed. So given those that constraint that he's had, it's actually a very progressive cabinet. I'm not sure I see anything in there to be overly worried about, given that he ran as a moderate, middle of the road, boring centrist, right? Yeah. I think his government's looking more liberal than what he ran on.